Hello, my name is Drew, and I'm the Aspiring Master, and welcome to the Aspiring Master Presents. This is a show where we talk about the meanings, misunderstandings, and insights about the important words we use and misuse on a daily basis. Really understanding what we're truly meaning when we talk allows us to convey and explain ourselves better to others. This not only allows us clearer communication so we can get what we need quicker and with less stress, but also helps us understand ourselves in more depth than we thought possible. This is part 2 of our faith episode, the last episode that Therese Wilson was able to record before her death. When we went through the footage of this now 2-part show, we found that we couldn't cut anything out. Not only because this was Therese's last opportunity to share her wisdom, but because the show was just so darn good. At the end of the episode, we have put together a short tribute to Therese, and we hope you can watch and admire the woman that meant so much to so many people. So here it is, the last hurrah. See you later, Therese. So long, and thanks for all the fish. Because of the way that I understand the world, because of the way that I've experienced it and interpreted, my goodness, that was good. Because of the way I interpret it, it gives me a tremendous amount of freedom in being able to accept people as they are, as opposed to rigidly saying I know something. Again, when I say I know something, I've just locked it up. I've just put a cage around whatever it is that I say that I know, right? I've put a cage around it. Now,
and you stop creation.
Right, exactly. Which is, I go, even quantum physicists will tell you this. This is how we understand it right now. Right? Because there are so many things that happen later. Right. And I think that I was talking to somebody about mastery, and we were because I call myself the aspiring master. Right. And when we're talking about mastery, I think that mastery really is I've got a pretty good handle on it. Right. And that's basically mastery.
I have mastered it in this moment.
Exactly. Or I have got really good skills and they seem to have worked thus far. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? And so therefore I can say I have a level of mastery. I don't think that there is such a thing. And that this is why people hate my philosophy of my own life. I said, I don't pin anything. I don't pin it to the wall. All I do is, and here's where I can use faith really, really well. Okay, is I go, okay, I start off having faith, I use faith as my little pin and I tack it up here, right? But it's really easy to pull that pin out, right? It holds things on the wall, as it should, but it doesn't have these barbs sticking in it so that you pull half the wall out with it. It's really smooth and you can just pull it out and it's got a little grip on it. It's ready. And so this is how I use faith. I go, oh, I have faith that this is what's going to happen. Now, as I'm walking down the road and I have new experiences, that faith pin, I might have to go, oh, wait, I need to change the script on that. Okay, no, not this. No, okay, good there. And I grab that faith pin and it's changed. It's now changed color, right? And I use that up there. And so everything that I put up there in faith is editable. And here's, again, part of the understanding that I have that nothing is absolute. Because if it is, then what I've done is I've taken, and I use carpentry analogies here because I don't know if you've ever seen nails that have I don't know, the Inuit used to have a spear and it had 2 points down like this and 1 point like this. So when you hit the fish, it would grab the fish and it wouldn't let go. Right? Okay. So it's this spear that goes like this, and there's points sticking up like this on either side, and then there's a point sticking down. So when it sticks into it, it just catches it, and it won't let it go. Like it can't get away. And there's a nail that if you hammer it in something, you really have to take part of the wood out with it in order to be able to get it out. No. And you can say it, I've glued it in. So there's a lot of people that use faith as those nails. You can't get them out. They are impossible to get out. Whereas if you use faith as a tack, it can change. The same thing goes with understanding mastery for me, understanding that there is no absolute. There is only the absolute that I understand right now. Right? Because that leaves my room open for re-education later. Then I don't have to defend it. I don't have to defend it. I just go, this is what I understand. These are my experiences. This is how I interpret it. And somebody says, well, that's wrong because, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm absolutely more than willing to listen. And I said, well, in my experience, that doesn't work, right? With this stuff, right? I can say, honestly, in my experience, that doesn't work. Well, you have to have faith. And I said, well, no, I've already used the faith pin over here, right?
No.
I can, but if I have faith, then
No,
that has to be
I don't have to have faith, because having faith means I have to believe what you believe. I don't in the sense of of people talking to me about their religion. Having faith means they want me to believe and insist that I have to believe in what they believe.
Right. Well, and again, because they see faith as a truth, as a fact,
truth,
right?
Yeah.
And whereas because of the way that I do things, faith to me is just a nice starting point that is mutable.
Truth, yeah.
Right? It's a mutable thing. And the same thing goes with knowing. It's really a mutable thing. It is what I understand right now in this moment, given the information and experience that I have.
Yeah, yeah, and that's pretty important what you said, because it is based on only right now. Yes, that's important. Knowing has to also be allowed to shift with more information.
Well, and because of the way that I use the word faith, because I understand that it is a mutable thing, and because I have that in the rest of my life, and people, like I said, come at me and go, "You're just a wishy-washy. You can move any direction." And I said, "Yeah, but that's part of this life. You have to be able to move in any direction, because life is going to hit you from any direction."
I know that being flexible has been one of my greatest assets in life. It's gotten me through. When we first got married, for the first 25 years, we probably moved every 18 months. Mm-hmm. It's gotten me through so many things, just being willing to stop, make a quick assessment, and move in another direction, and not question myself, because I don't have to question myself, because I know that if I make a mistake or it didn't work, I can simply change my mind and do something different. It has never been a punishment to make a mistake. I don't like the word, but it's never been a punishment to make a mistake. Right. It's always just been, okay, that didn't work. Now how do I take this experience and make it the one I want? Mm-hmm. Make it the one that I was trying to create, or simply say, we're moving on from this one now. Right. What else what's next?
Now, and when we talk about this stuff, and I want to make it very clear, when I talk about this stuff, I said these are, I would say in my life, I'm that way, the way that you're talking about, with, at this point in my life, I think about, 70-75% of my life. Okay. Now that's a really, really high number, considering that most people are down to 10 to 20%. And and I may be over exaggerating it too, but not every situation I'm like that. Sometimes I'm clinging to stuff. Sometimes I have an idea of what it should have been, and try and fit things into that box.
Yeah, and sometimes I look at the television and the news, and I'm not very kind to the people that are getting the stories on them. Right. My words to them are not the kindest in the world.
Right. Well, I mean, and it's I don't know if I will have any kind of level of mastery in my lifetime that I'm capable of doing that. Yeah.
In what context are you aspiring to be a master?
Well,
master if there's
exactly, which is a really great question. And when I'm talking about the aspiring master, I'm talking about people's idea of somebody that has, when I'm using it as mastery in this respect, somebody that has a great knowledge in an area, and in what I'm saying, great knowledge in myself. And that is where the aspiring master, I want to
mastery over oneself.
Not even over. I'm talking mastery with oneself. Yeah, there's no over. There's just a mastery of understanding of self. And again, there's levels, and they're infinite. And I think that if you go into like a Zen Buddhist master would tell you, there is always another peak. It never stops. Right? There is no.
Every time you think you've hit the top, then there's going to be another challenge, another opportunity to master even more.
Many masters out there that people call masters, again, say, I am not what you think I am. I'm just a student. I'm just a student with some good skills. And when we're talking about, and when I'm talking about myself as aspiring master, that is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a mastery of a mastery with myself, of understanding, of experiencing and understanding the experiences I experience, why I experience those experiences, how those stimuluses affect the people around me, and how I can say and be the person that I've always wanted to be, right? So,
my recent challenges have gotten me to of course do some. It's not difficult to do, unfortunately, no. But it's gotten me to examine. Over the years, of course, we have conversations with people and go, well, if I'm ever in this situation, this is the way I'm going to do it.
It's never that way. Never.
You know what? It kind of is. I've, and you discover that you've either been lying to yourself, this is the way you're going to be, or not.
Well, I agree. Well,
there are things that I've had to go, ooh, you need to take a look at that. But there have been also things where I go, well, I didn't lie to myself. I did not lie to myself. And it's nice to know I did not lie to myself about how I would feel about certain things and react to certain things.
Well, I every now and again have some surprises in my personality on how I act and react to things. And I think that, like you, because of the amount of, and it's not work, just because of the amount of self-education, I would call it, that I've done.
Self-education, but let's say, because we have been, and I haven't been slamming reading things, I've just been gently reading, like the Conversation with God books over like 15 years and rereading them. And of course, on the CWG Helping Outreach, I share what I feel and believe and what has worked for me with other people who are looking for help. But just the fact that I have gently practiced getting and using these things in my life, even when I didn't need them in the same way, I'm using that word need colloquially. I didn't need them dramatically at the time, but they helped me just a little bit. Now that I have practiced using those things in my life, when it comes to something more difficult going on in my life, I just more naturally apply them, and they're just there, and gently work my way through with the larger problem. Mm-hmm. So it's about, if you're a young person watching this, just know that any little thing you do, practicing these things now before they're urgent in your life, will help you greatly when it is urgent in your life. Mm-hmm.
Well, it is absolutely surprising when I'm stuck in some of the situations that I've been stuck in my life, that how calmly I'm able to create that in myself. And just as surprising, some of the situations that I thought I would have calmness around, I don't.
or I didn't, that because it was just an area that I've never experienced before. And here's, again, my whole philosophy around not cementing everything in stone, not making anything a fact, only a fact of now, right? This is how I understand. This is how I live. This is how living that life is bringing these things and not bringing these things. And we can take a look at it. And I know that I'm a very, very analytical person. And I know that I'm able to step back emotionally from a lot of things that a lot of people aren't, right? I mean, I all I have to do is take a look at my wife and see the kinds of struggles that she goes through in being able to release things emotionally. And it's not a failing. It has nothing to do with what should be, because I can't. I've met very, very few people, you being actually one of them, that can even truly understand what I'm talking about when I talk about this. It's something different, but I don't hold anybody up to that standard. Sure, just like everybody else, I look and see things on TV or on the internet, and I go, "Are these people really that? Really?" Right? I can't believe my ears or my eyes. And but I also have to backpedal when I do that and just go, you are not them. You were not raised the way that they were raised. You do not have the philosophies that they hold. Remember that these people believe wholeheartedly what they're doing, or they don't and they're really good manipulators. One of the two, right? Because there are those out there.
Very many of them, yeah.
Right? So
in politics.
Yeah, well, absolutely in politics, but in any kind of leadership role, you can have leaders like that. I personally think that the best leader to have is one that is eminently qualified and didn't want the job. Right? Exactly. Best leader you can have, eminently qualified and didn't want the job. No, I don't want the job. I really don't want the job.
I get that. Both with my CDWG stuff, but also with the homeowners association that I just recently had to resign from. I was the best president they had because I did not identify myself as the president of the HOA. It didn't matter to me if I was president of the HOA. All I wanted to do was get some things done for the neighborhood. I looked at everything from the viewpoint of I am a resident in this neighborhood. Everyone who is complaining, they are my neighbors. They're not my enemies. And how do I proceed from that?
Well, I mean, coming at any given situation, and then when you're talking about leadership, coming at any given situation from the standpoint of my philosophy of we don't know what's right, but this is where I think we wish to go. How can we get there, right? Instead of I'm right and this is where we got to go.
Or that handshake you're talking about.
Yeah.
How can I shake hands with someone who has a need in my neighborhood, but the HOA may or may not be have anything that can help you? Well, then there are other resources, and we can help you find those resources perhaps, or I can simply explain to people why they cannot have something instead of just saying no. And even empathize and say, I understand why you want it. I understand. And maybe even in the future, but right now we don't have the money or X, Y, and Z. Yeah. They just want to really have, here we go, communication, connection. Yeah. They really want to feel that someone sees them and
as at least addressing the problem. Right? Like it's not necessarily like you can do anything about it, but at least you acknowledge it's there.
Acknowledge that it's there. Yeah. That they exist, that they don't just brush them to the side. Yes. And I had faith that I could do that. And I did.
Here we can actually talk about when somebody has faith in a leader, and again, using the tack analogy of saying, I can take a look at you and say, my experience of you is, all of these experiences. And you said, hey, I'm going to take charge over here. This is what's going on. And they said, would you support me? And I would say, I have faith, take my tack out, that because based on what I understand of you, that you would do a good job there. Click. Right? Now you go and you do that thing, and all of a sudden you're horrible at it. You're just like absolutely the most horrible. Okay, well,
Fire me, please.
unfortunately, I have to redo this faith thing, right? Because now I just take the tack out of the wall and put that faith tack over here and use it for something else later. Because now I understand, and the physical evidence says that that's not what's going on. So I can take that.
And even as the leader who assumes the job, they have faith in themselves that they'd be able to do it.
Exactly.
But the problem is when we discover that we really don't, we don't know how to move away from our perception of public shame and say, I really didn't know what to expect. This is way above my pay grade. Give me time to catch up and figure this out, or it's okay if I resign, right?
Yeah, exactly.
but we don't go there. We feel trapped. Faith in ourselves or faith in these things traps you sometimes too.
Well, it certainly can. If you do have faith in yourself, it's just like I can say that
if you add ego to that instead of just
that's true.
Yeah.
No, okay, so let's actually take a look at that specifically. So say I've got a leadership role comes up, and I have faith in myself that I'm going to be able to take that leadership role, and I have this imagination of I'm just going to nail it, right? I get into that position, all of a sudden I'm faced with like 50 different things that I didn't understand and I didn't know, and I'm not good at them. Or it's like, so then it comes down to, again, humility of understanding to be able to say, I'm in over my head.
Yeah.
Right here. And it's not saying that you don't even have to say that. You can just say,
we think that says we're diminished in some way.
Yeah.
No, that's we should all be saying,
as far as I'm concerned, that my faith in myself is justified by doing that. Right. As opposed to,
and my faith in myself is justified by saying that I have faith that if I'm going to do the right thing, then I also have to have faith that I have the ability to walk away if I cannot do the right thing.
Exactly. And so, again, faith can be a mutable thing. But if you say, I know I can do this, and you keep saying that, and here's where we run into that ultra liberal idea that so many of the conservatives are attack, is giving participation ribbons, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you've been given enough participation ribbons, you can do it, Johnny. All of that stuff if you've been in a society that tells you all that, when you get into a situation where you are way over your head, you just go, well, I can do this. I can just buckle down and I can do this. And it's like, and people go, well, we know that he's not doing well, but good try. You're doing your best.
Or nowadays, even if they're failing, they just simply change the narrative and say, I have succeeded. I have succeeded. I have succeeded. And they repeat it so often,
so many times
that people finally believe it, and they believe it themselves.
Again, I think that if you get stuck in that faith trap there, right? Because I think it is a faith trap. I think that it is, having faith in yourself can be as much of a trap if you hold that faith as it must be real. Again, as it must be truth, and try and force everything else into that faith instead of really admitting,
well,
I'm out of my depth.
And that, of course, is the paradigm that has been suggested by most religions, is that you keep repeating the falseness, the false part of the faith over and over again until it is the truth. It is the truth of your particular religion. Mm-hmm. And so they have shown you that works in religion. So why not the rest of my life? If I just say it's my faith, it's my faith, it's my true, must be yours too. Mm-hmm. They've set the paradigm.
When you can honestly be wrong.
Yeah.
When you can honestly say that you need help, when you can honestly understand that faith is not a box,
Right. You're right. Faith is not immutable. Faith
No.
opens up actually all possibilities.
And I'm going to say, I think that I talked about this last show that we were on, is when I die, I'm going to go back and re-experience the 80s, right? And I have faith in that. Now, I totally know that after I die, that may not be true, but all the way up until then, it excites me. And so therefore, I'm going to keep that faith in there until afterwards, and I've experienced something else. But I also know that it's quite possibly not true. It's just fun to think of, and it eases my mind. It allows my mind to stop going, oh my God, I'm going to die.
The 80s, huh?
Yeah, the 80s, just because I love the 80s. But so when I say that, and this gets back to my point of we make everything up. I made up a truth, okay? It's not even truth. It's not a truth. It's just I made up an idea that I put faith into, right? And knowing that no matter what, really, the only thing that it's doing for me is to calm my mind down and be excited about what comes next, okay? Knowing full well, may not be true. I might die and never, I wouldn't know it. There might be a Christian God at the end of this, and I have a reckoning. There might be all of this, right? Knowing full well that there is an infinite amount of possibility after that fact. And because I have to live this life up until that point, what is it that will make my brain feel comfortable and happy? I'm going to make this up because it sounds cool, and I think that would be great. And so I understand that taking that faith pin, knowing that it's a pin, it can be pulled out anytime I want to. I can change it anytime I want to. But I'll do that, and I put that pin up there, and that part of my brain that keeps going, oh, you're going to die. It's going to be horrible. It's like, it goes, wait a minute, it would be fun, wouldn't it? Right? Yeah, that would be really fun. Okay, well, I agree with you. Let's just put that to rest for now. And we pin that part on the wall, and it's not talking to me all the time. I recognize.
For me, what happens after death? I believe that there's something more, because I know that when my personal experiences, and yeah, you're right, could be synapses and everything, but as my father was dying. But I believe that we are all part of one energy, and that is what's coming at me from other people, because I get thoughts and voices from other people. They're talking to me, but not in a psychotic way, I promise.
It wouldn't be bad if it was.
It won't be the first one. But I know that I was meditating when my father died. And he simply came to me and said, I'm sorry, Terry, this is just too damn hard. Mm-hmm. And this was, as I now know for sure, he was dying. My cousin came to me as she was dying. There are different experiences that I have had with people who were already gone. And so I believe that there is something more. But it's irrelevant, because I don't know that there's something more. It is irrelevant to it is. I don't live my life for what's going to happen after my death. I live my life because I'm enjoying all the experiences now. I am fully satisfied with what my life is now, and I'll be surprised one way or another. Like you said, there may be so many things beyond, and maybe I have lived many lives, but I don't know this. So living my life with that goal seemed like wasting my energy. I will just live now.
I agree with you. And when I talk about using faith, the faith pin, um, and sticking that up there, again, part of it is to keep that part of your mind occupied,
Oh, yeah, why
right?
not?
You're pinning that up there so you don't have to be worrying about it all the time. I
Yeah,
just go, oh, okay, I'm going to take, and which is where we were talking about earlier, how you can use faith
as a
as a
tool.
way to stop your mind from bugging you all the time, right? You can just say, I'm pinning that up there. I know that there is no way that I know, but that's okay.
Well, a gal's got to have a dream.
This helps me here now,
Right. There we go.
right? So it is, like I
Yeah.
said, it just like hope, right? Just like hope can be a really, really good tool, or it can be really, really detrimental to you.
Yeah. And faith,
Faith is the
faith,
same
faith,
thing.
faith, if you understand that it opens up the possibilities,
Mhm.
if you, it gives you opportunities, it gives you all kinds of things, but it doesn't give you absolute truth.
Right. And that's, I think that, bottom line, yeah, I came into this going, I might be really, pooping on faith here. And that's not what I want to do.
No, it's a really good place
It
to
really is. It's
it's
a
a
it's
good
a
stage, it's
fantastic
a good
thing.
stage, it's a good staging place.
Yeah, it is a
It is.
fantastic tool. It's just understanding the tool that it is, as
Understanding
opposed to,
that understanding that everything in life really is a tool because there
yeah.
are no
Well, my
absolutes.
my wife calls me a tool often.
Well,
But it's like,
I won't contradict her.
I'm sure that you, and nor should you, right? I think that we've all been tools in our lives. Um,
Oh,
but
yes.
you notice how I just took that whole thing
Yes.
that was
Right,
pointing at me, and I
right
made it
now,
point at the rest of the world.
right now, I am not used to being the helpless one. I'm used to being the one who helps people, and I'm used to being, you know, the strong one and the one. But now that I am the weak one, and my husband is insisting, I gotta rest and I gotta take and da da da. Occasionally, I I will ask for, can I have a cookie? You know, I will abuse my power
Of course.
to ask a little bit,
Well,
but I'm doing my best to do what I can.
I have to
But
say that,
it's kind of nice sometimes to
well,
serve a
I do have to
child,
say
you know.
that COVID, specifically, has given me a bunch of time off, which is the first time in my life, really, that I've had time off since I started working at 14. Um, I've basically, I think that I've had like a month. I went for two, no, I went for 2 months, I think, over summer, on EI when I was living in Edmonton, and I was 17 or 18. And I did it because I was just in between jobs and I'd never done it before.
EEI what?
The uh, employment insurance is what it's called. So it's a socialist program. And
Welfare call here, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so, or the dole in in Britain, right? But barring those 2 months of my life, I've been working like all the time since I was 14. And so COVID has forced me to stay home. Now, that doesn't mean that I've been languishing in in cookies and revelry. Obviously not. I can't do that. Because I've been working on the studio, I've been working on a whole bunch of other things. But I still have a ton of time off that I've never had before. So and is really tough for me to go, oh, I can just do nothing today, right? But I'm getting to the point now where it's like, hey, I kind of like this nothing.
You know what? That is what that's what I learned to be okay with.
Mhm.
That kind of goes back to, I'm okay with the thoughts in my mind, even when they're thoughts that are difficult to process sometimes. I'm okay with the thoughts in my mind, which means I'm okay with quiet. I'm okay with doing nothing. I'm okay with allowing the space for the thoughts to happen.
Well, I think that we've come to the end of our faith discussion. I think that we've covered so many good things. I really do. I think that I'm really excited about this. Although I'm kind of really excited about any of our episodes, but I'm really excited specifically about this one because
I like your push pin.
Yeah, because it is
your faith pin.
Yeah, the faith pin. I think that this we'll definitely have to make one.
Or anyone who's watching right now, just think of any kind of goal, small or large, and literally go get one of those push pins. Just as a visual reminder. Sometimes you need those little visual reminders.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes you need the understanding that when you put something into a corkboard, you can take it out again.
Yeah.
This was a super important topic. It is, like I said, trying to figure out how to be able to allow other people with other faith, because when you get down to the bottom of my understanding of the world, because we make it all up, and that makes it okay that other people are making up their own stuff, even if they're living off somebody else's made up stuff, right? I understand it because I understand how I make up stuff for me. Allows me to be able to be okay with these people, allows me to love the person, maybe not the philosophy. To be able to let them go. I was just talking to my wife about a friend of mine who's gotten very much back into his religion, and he's stopped smoking the weed that he used to smoke because he's in pain, right? And he stopped smoking the weed, and he sort of centered his attention. Really, really smart guy. But we've come to an impasse where we're not talking or seeing each other, and this happens.
This is an again thing.
Yeah, this is again. Like, I mean, this is a happening. I'm thinking that at this point that it may well be permanent, right? We're going to get back together and we're going to talk about it, because there's a lot of stuff that's going on for him that he has a lot of judgments on around me, and that just doesn't suit me, right? Like, I mean, I don't. First off, it's okay that you do, and that you have those judgments. I just don't want to be around them.
We just don't have to sit in them.
You know, I'm never going to stop loving you. I'm just going to stop hanging out with you.
Have you ever handed him something like the little What God Wants book?
No. I've talked to him about it. I've talked to him about taking a look at those things. Truth be told, he's not open to it. And he won't pick them up.
Yeah, I've had people over the years, as soon as they hear conversations with God, a lot of their particular churches actually warned people about conversations with God, and I have just directly asked, have you read it?
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not supposed to. Well, if you ever want to read it, and then we'll have a conversation about this. You know,
I would always.
You cannot tell me I am wrong if you haven't even looked at what I'm looking at.
Yeah, dude, I looked at
and conversely, I can't tell other people that they're wrong unless they're telling things. Actually, not wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Not logical. Or
okay. What if what you say?
Yeah.
If someone is trying to tell me something that would not enhance my life, if it would diminish my life, then they can't tell me it's a philosophy that truly works.
Right. Yeah. When I'm dealing with people, and especially people that say, "Oh no, we've been warned about it, and we're not allowed to read that, or we're not supposed to read that," I said, "But that's your box, and you have this issue with my fact that I don't have those kind of borders, even though I do have borders. I've just created them to what works better for me in regards with everybody else. I'm thinking about those guys too, and not just my people, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So
it's kind of like the Israelis and the Palestinians.
Well, and I mean, I mean, that's a whole mess of worms.
There's a
And
whole mess of worms.
one of the reasons I keep mentioning this, and Talia keeps going, would you stop mentioning this? And I'm like, I'm mentioning it. It's my show. But one of the reasons that we talk about these words is because we really need to be able to start being able to communicate, because those two sides are not communicating.
Right.
They're not seeing what Marshall Rosenberg, who does nonviolent communication stuff. But he talks about as not finding the life in the other people. We lose the life in between on these translations of not understanding these people as people. And what this is so important to be able to talk about, and especially Faith, like I said, really excited about this episode specifically, is that we can really start to say, let's take a look at this and start to really communicate with each other and understand that Catholics, Christians, Muslims, all of that stuff, that your faith is not something that I would consider bad. I just say, let's look at it. Or if you are not willing to do that and you're willing to live in there, then how do we communicate outside of it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's communicate as people outside of it. I don't have to tell you you're wrong. I don't have to tell you you're right. You can live your life and still have a friendship with me without ever even bringing it up, right?
Unless you're doing something like your friend is doing, and bringing
that kind of judgment,
bringing some what doesn't work into it too strongly.
And like I said, it's like it obviously works for him, right? There's nothing wrong with that. I just have
but the one judgment. And truthfully, I don't think you have to make the decision. I think he's just going to pull away from you anyway.
Yeah. Well, I agree, but he's actually a pretty good guy. He's a pretty honest guy.
He would probably die for you.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that he's pleasant to be around.
Well, and I mean, I find him pleasant to be around most of the time. I've seen the undercurrent of what's going on.
Mm.
He's not saying all of the things that are going on underneath the surface. I can see that just fine. I could see the amount of judgments, and I can also see him trying to manipulate me around into a certain way of thinking. And even like he's fairly conservative and stuff, and so we have some interesting arguments about things, but he's very logical, and I take a lot of the things that he talks about, and I can incorporate them into what I'm doing, because I go, oh, I didn't think about it that way.
Right.
But I'm never going to be the person that he wants me to be, and I think that that's the problem.
Yeah.
And that
he's doing the parental thing, that thinks that you have to go down a certain road in order to fulfill your life. Yeah.
Well, and because it is so important to him for me to be that way, right? And because there's so many judgments being the way that I am, I just don't think it's going to be conducive to a relationship that he.
No, I think if you simply stand there and maybe even have a short conversation about, calmly about your truths, and just your truths,
mm-hmm.
It is absolutely true. Those who disagree with you and your friend will just quietly fade away, because there won't be two egos fighting.
Yeah. Oh, and he's definitely a strong ego. And like all of the things that I love about
you go and you stand there just perfectly calm, he'll fade away.
Well, and I'm not worried about it. I said, no, we've done this a number of times in the past, and we've always come back and talked and reconciled and gotten to that place again. But we tend to keep going to that judgment place eventually in our relationship, and that it has to stop, and he's got to reset, and then he comes back, and it's just like, it's okay, however it needs to pan out.
He keeps retreating to his comfort zone from the past,
and wherever he needs to be, right?
Yeah,
it's like, seriously, I mean, I love the person. I understand that the person is doing what the person thinks is correct. It doesn't stop me loving him. It just may stop me hanging out with him. That's all.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank Therese Wilson for coming on the show and talking about this incredibly important subject on the word of faith here on the Aspiring Master Presents, and all the stuff that she talks about, going through. She's going through a tough time with her diagnosis of cancer, and it's only a tough time on her body. It's obviously not as tough a time on her mind, which we're absolutely grateful for, and that she spends the time to come here and share her wisdom and experience even more wisdom as we come up with new things as we're talking on the show here at Aspiring Master. Stay tuned for our next episode.
And thank you, Drew.
You're welcome.
Thank you for letting me.
There's no letting, sweetie. There's only sharing.
Thank you for giving this space. Since we're obviously breaking. You have a habit of saying right when you're trying to make a point. And you don't need to say it quite as often because we understand the point as you're saying.
Okay, I've got a non sequitur. Yes. Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That word expectation is right in the middle of that definition. And when you have an expectation, that's when you're looking to have that wish fulfilled in a certain way. And that's when you put blinders on, and any of the other odd ways or different ways that might show up, you're going to miss. And then you're going to get to the point where you're frustrated because all the ways that that could have fulfilled that wish have been foregone because you had to have it happen in a certain way. And if we're going to be real honest, sometimes we don't care because we think you're wrong, and we don't want to say anything. I'm just going to sit back here and let you have it because I'm not understanding or agreeing with any of this, but I know you are having a moment, but I'm staying out of the line of fire.
Well, and maybe care is misconstrued as agreement, right?
Asking for agreement, yes.
Right.
We go along with the group, and instead of thinking about, we go along with our religion or our society or our Kiwanis Club or whatever it is. We go along with the group thinking because and this would validate the social connection need, because we want so badly to be part of the group, to be connected. We stay in dysfunctional relationships because we need the connection. So much is simply based on this understanding of community that's in most cases or many cases in error. That's where the highly evolved beings supposedly tell the truth about everything all the time, and they don't but until then we rely on others to help us with our perception of ourselves. Unfortunately, right. we fill ourselves from outward in, and if we were fully aware inwardly and don't really care about the outwardly, in the sense that we still love and everything, but we don't get emotionally egocentrically hurt, then we would tell far fewer lies, if any lies at all, because what we don't do is allow ourselves to move away from the thing that is the most shocking regarding a person. If we think about someone, let's say even in grade school, we can remember the little snotty thing Johnny did, but we don't necessarily go immediately to how cute he was, that kind of thing.
Right.
We can remember the bad things our parents did. We can remember all the hurts that happened to us along the way. And those are the things that shade us. And compounded by the fact that we start thinking about it. We get that brain that, if you say, starts pulling past data into the present moment, plus the mammalian response, the animal response, and our brain doesn't translate it properly. That's why we have to find our own way, whether it's meditation or whatever, to go into that higher place, at least before a situation, and kind of prepare our mind and our body for what we're going to do when we get that instant response. And then how can we change our mind about it? Well, we can change our mind about it by preparing ourselves for it in a holistic way, I guess, spiritual way. Yeah, all the things involved in not accepting responsibility are those things that keep us looking backwards and not looking forward, and not accepting that life just is. And because it just is, then we have choices in every moment, and we can change our mind in every moment.
So it's like, hey, you're being selfish, right?
Yeah.
Is basically saying that you're not having regard for others.
Yeah, and that's where I'm not necessarily going to disagree with the definition, but that's when we get to the other side of the give and the givee, the giver and the givee.
Yeah.
Givee, and there's the word we used last week. If the givee, the givee has an expectation that the giver is going to give to you, and calls the giver selfish for not giving, then the whole thing is tainted, because it isn't allowing the giver to give freely. There's an expectation attached to it.
Yeah.
So selfishness doesn't necessarily reside with the person who didn't give. The selfishness could reside with the person who expected to be given to and doesn't get it.
Right.
No, I'm in agreement with that. You usually give me the word a day or two before, and of course I know you're going to go to Merriam-Webster, but I avoid it. A couple thoughts might pop into my mind, but I also don't want to have any expectation of where the discussion is going, because I want it to be as though I want other people to see that this really is a discussion among friends who mostly think alike, who mostly understand one another, but we are free to disagree. And we are just sharing our ideas and thoughts about things. And those thoughts might be a little bit different than what they may have thought of on occasion, or what they might get is that feeling of, well, it's nice to see someone agrees with me. Because a lot of times I know in my life, the way I think about things, sometimes it's hard to find people who agree with me.
Okay, so I want to get into glossing over that, but what I would like to get into is what
being in a marriage.
Yeah, well, actually being in a good marriage, because I think, and that's a judgment call, but I think that a healthy marriage, I would probably say more.
Okay, do I get to describe my marriage?
Sure, that's it. Well, I mean, I think that we're both in healthy marriages here. And I think that it comes from a bunch of the stuff that we've said, but let's go into, what do you think makes your marriage work as fabulously as it's working for you right now?
Well, that little thing that we've already talked about, communication, is really key. And we communicate, of course, again, we'll always caveat everything as there are exceptions to this. But for the most part, we communicate the things that are not working or wrong in our marriage when they're little. We don't hold it all in. We don't wait for it to come to a giant explosion. We just talk, say, sweetie, that bothered me, or can we talk about this? The languaging has evolved over the years too, but talking about how we feel.
Okay. All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.